Greetings, visionaries. This is your host, the INFJ visionary. And the topic of today's broadcast is, well, a lot of different things. Maybe, one thing I wanted to talk about was the pain body, right? Or what Eckhart Tolle called it. And he's all right. You can't. A friend of mine referred to him as warmed over narcissism, and I thought, and Buddhism, which is fine. Those are okay. Yeah. But it's a useful idea. He's the one who introduced me to it. My friend was also saying there's like a medical term for the memory of pain held in the body, and I think we can all relate to that. Um, all of us, of course, are in bodies, although a lot of times they say INFJs are not in their bodies, and I think it's because we are, but we don't necessarily put as much emphasis on that as what's happening and going on inside of our minds. One thing I think is interesting as a little aside before I start talking about that memory of pain, and maybe we'll meet up with that, but is how people consider us, because it's INFJ, that's a feeler type. They don't realize that we're very logical, and one of the things that makes us so incredibly powerful and the dangerous INFJ that everyone's so afraid of, like you see in all these videos or whatever, I think a lot of where that comes from is because we have that ability to be an outsider that's empathetic and can see through everything. Empathetic, but with logic backing it up. So it's not just feeling. We're not just running around feeling things. And we know plenty of people like that, and they give the whole feeler type a bit of a bad name because they think that feeling is automatically alienated from logic. But that's what I think introverted thinking really is. It's a logical function and incredibly, to use that word, powerful again. Incredibly powerful because we have it not only to back up our intuitions, but we also have it as an auxiliary to the feeling things that we're picking up from people around us. And the combination of the two, yeah, it could be devastating and it could be something fearful, I guess, but usually it's not because we're mostly altruistic. Anyway, getting back to this remembrance of pain in the body, and it's not just pain of like physical nature. That's one of the reasons why I think that definition of the actual part of the body that remembers pain isn't quite accurate, because this is sort of the kind of thing that's kind of behind the door slam. It's like we're not sensitive in a weak way, but we are sensitive, but we're self-aware enough, I think, when someone hurts us to go, oh well, they just do that because their dad used to hit them, or whatever. We make excuses for people. We're empathetic, we go, well, they really do mean well, and that kind of thing. But the slight is still there, if it was a slight, or it could have just been any other sort of offending act that someone could do. It could have been being derisive, or it could have been even derisive towards other people. That's not something that I think well of when I see it, and I'm sure most of you will agree with that. But these jabs, these stings, they add up, and for so long we'll go, yeah, well, they're doing this, they're doing that, until one day we'll go, nah, man, this is a painful relationship for me. I've got to take care of myself here. I've got to look out for myself, and that's the thing. That is the thing about being a human being, and a lot of the nature and places where fear comes from, really, if you think about it, is being in a body that you have to look after, and having a mind and a reputation. It could even be financial. You never know. It's like someone starts talking you down at work, that could end up costing you your job, which could mean you have to move and all the other stuff we forecast with our imaginations that are, of course, like a great point I think I brought up in the last video was how in the absence of information, the intuition gets really weird and it isn't good. So, but I touched on that in the last video, and a lot of times what we're going to do is just to protect ourselves from these pains, these things that we see coming, and but sometimes we're wrong. And you know what? The thing is, like, we could end up being sort of non-brave people because we'll shut down things because we can see all of the potential things that could go wrong with it. That's definitely true of me. Although I consider myself to be an optimistic person, and I've accomplished a lot of, I think well, not a lot. I've accomplished a few great things and a lot of good things in my life, and I've done a lot of the things I wanted to do. Not being a grand explorer or adventurer, that doesn't appeal to me. So much of the terrain that I've discovered is creative and intellectual, but not intellectual in a fey kind of way. Intellectual in a way like I'm intellectually curious about things and I like to know about them and use them and implement them. Yeah. Anyway, back to this. The door slam. So much discussed, but I've been actually reverse door slammed recently. I can talk about that a little bit, and that's where I had a really good friend for a long time, and we'd had a bit of a falling out. I don't know over what, but it was very hurtful for me back then because we were quite close, and it's sort of odd for dudes, regular older dudes, to be as close as we were, but we were, and we got reconciled, and that was for a pretty good period of last year. And then just something come up, and it was over. And the first time was incredibly painful, but the memory of all that pain, this kind of ties into what I was talking about. It's like I was door slammed in a sense, but I'm not interested in reconciliation because there's going to be too much pain now, and that is I guess the topic of the video, really. If this has happened to you, I don't even want to say what personality type this person was or anything like that. I don't want to get into any specifics of it other than to say I wasn't as hurt the second time, and also the second time it's like I'd already internalized all the pain from the first time. So you go, my wife asked me about this person. I says, well, whatever, I don't actually have any negativity towards them or any bad feeling. And I think ideally this is how we would hope that people would feel if we door slam them. Because from my point of view, it's like, well, okay, I say things that this person really can't handle. You can hear my little puppy in the background. Yeah, the INFJ visionary has a dog, yes. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. It's like, okay, so it hurts too much to talk to me for whatever reason. I understand that. That's no reason to be mad at anybody, On the other hand, you go, well, why would I want to continue a close friendship with somebody who's going to maybe not be able to listen to what I've said in a fair and open way without getting emotional? And I think all of us have been there. That's part of the trouble with making friends as an INFJ. And I'm just thankful in my case for all the good years we had, and just wish him well and stuff. Anyway, that's a little bit of personal, but a lot of times I just sit down and record these things, and hopefully you got something from it. Till I come back, INFJ Maybe you can relate. If you can, come back.